How's it going, everyone? My name's Tom with Fix.com, and today we're going to be going through some of the most common pieces of grilling advice and letting you know which ones just don't hold up. When it comes to grilling, there's so many tips and tricks that you might have heard either online or from family and friends, and while some of them are great, some of them just don't hold up anymore. Today we're going to be looking at 6 super common grill tips that may not be all they're cracked up to be. Myth number 1, searing your meat locks in juices. This is a big one. I'm sure you've heard all kinds of people say that searing the meat locks in juices and makes the meat more juicy and tender. It's not true. This one's completely bogus. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't be searing your meat. Searing your meat is a huge part of grilling. I'm a big fan of it. You need to do it, but it's not to lock in juices. It's to develop flavor. When you're grilling, the hot grill reacts with meat that you're cooking in what's called the Maillard reaction. And that creates a beautiful crust on a steak or a burger, really anything you put on the grill. But make sure you're careful, because cooking meat for too long on high heat can actually dry it out in the end. And that's why it's best to just sear your meat until you get that delicious crust, and then you finish it off over lower heat. Myth number 2, you need to oil up your grill. I'll admit, this is a myth that I've fallen for in the past. I used to think it was just like cooking inside. You're using a pan, you put oil on the bottom of the pan, it keeps the food from sticking. Well, it's actually quite different with the grill. You don't actually want to put oil right on the grill or even use cooking spray, because that oil or spray can drip down into the flames, create a fire, and then your food gets burnt, or you could have an even bigger problem on your hands. Instead, what you want to do is put a little bit of oil on whatever that you're actually cooking, your chicken breast, your steak, whatever it is. That'll actually help your whatever seasoning you're using stick to the meat. And it's enough lubrication to keep your food from sticking to the grill, and it's way less of a fire hazard or a burn hazard. Myth number 3, the pink juice leaking out of a steak or burger is blood. This is actually a pretty popular myth as well. When you buy red meat like a burger or a steak or something like that, there'll be a red liquid sometimes in the bottom of the tray that you buy it in. Now, lots of people think this is blood, but it's not. It's actually water mixed with a protein called myoglobin, which gives the meat its red color. Now, I wouldn't drink it out of the tray, but it's not actually blood and it's completely safe. But make sure you cook your meat to the proper internal temperature. Myth number 4, you can tell the temperature of the grill by holding your hand over it. Now, this myth is actually only partially false. Now, everybody has a different tolerance for heat, and it's going to depend on where you hold your hand over the grill to determine what temperature it is. It's just not that accurate. You can certainly put your hand over the grill and determine if it's hot or if the grill is on, but trying to determine what the exact temperature or even an approximate temperature is by putting your hand over it, that's going to be pretty hard to do. You're going to want to use your grill's built-in thermometer or a thermometer that you buy separately to get that done. It's just a lot more accurate. If you hear somebody say that they can tell exactly what temperature is by just holding their hand over it, it's probably not true. Myth number 5, looking ain't cooking. Now, I'm sure we've all heard this one, looking ain't cooking. People will tell you to keep the lid down when you're cooking. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but the grill doesn't work the same way with the oven. When you open the lid up, you don't lose as much heat on the grill. All that's gonna happen is you're gonna cook it directly from the bottom only. And I actually prefer that when I'm grilling something. It gets that nice hot sear on the bottom, and you can flip it and keep it cooking evenly on both sides. Now, there are times when you are gonna wanna have the lid down, like for example, if you're trying to smoke something on your grill, or if you're finishing off like a steak, for example, on indirect heat, you're gonna need to keep the lid down for that to maintain the heat when it's not directly over the flame. But if you're gonna just grill something up like a burger or a hot dog especially, leave the lid up, you're gonna get plenty of heat from the flames themselves, and you're gonna be able to cook your food much more evenly that way. Myth number 6, the best way to tell if a steak is done is by feeling it. Now, this is probably one of the most popular grill tips that I've ever heard. Lots of people will tell you that you can put your finger and your thumb together and feel the pad of your hand like this to determine whether a steak is well done, medium rare, whatever. It's not incorrect. It's definitely a way that you can do it based on years of practice and really getting to know that feel and exactly when a steak is done. But in reality, the very best way to determine when a steak is done is by using a meat thermometer. The thermometer will tell you what temperature it is, and if that's the temperature you want, it's done. It's easy. So is it a grill myth? Not really, you can tell if a steak is done by touching it, but I find a much more precise method is by using a meat thermometer. Thanks so much for joining us today and taking a look at some of the grilling advice that just doesn't hold up anymore. We hope it makes you a more confident griller. And for more help with your grill, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and check out our blog at Fix.com.